All right, I am here with, yes, you know him, Cryptorich is with us once again to do another show. We're going to discuss crypto, we'll discuss business and entrepreneurship and all kinds of other issues. And I am also here with Starkers, who has the SPK Network, a lot of very, very interesting apps built on top of crypto and blockchain. And these apps, these sites, these communities are really, really interesting. And Starkers, first of all, where can people reach you? And then tell us about what you're doing. I mean, I've got 3Speak open right now and I'm looking at it. And you can tell us about 3Speak. You can tell us about the SPK Network, just whatever you want to talk about. But first, where can people find you?
People can find us on our Discord channel. It's /3Speak. And Telegram, we have 3Speak, the Telegram channel, and we also have Speak Network, the Telegram channel. And then we publish a lot of work. All of our official blogs go through the Hive blockchain, and that's at /@Speak Network or at 3Speak, which is THREE Speak. And that's at hive.blog or peakd.com, any of the apps that run on the Hive blockchain, you can find us there.
All right, I will put everything in the description box down below. I'll put all those links there so people can find you. What is this? What is Speak? What is Speak Network? What are you guys doing?
What are we doing? Gosh, funny we do.
They're giving us the opportunity to speak freely and make money, whether you watch, whether you create,
I'm up for that.
whether you support.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, we realised about 3 years ago that there's a lot of censorship going to start happening, and we decided to build a video platform to try to protect free speech. And as we've got more and more involved in the technology, we run DPoS technology, which is a type of blockchain, and it really allows you to run Web3 where you own the account, the user owns the account outside of the platform, and there is no entity or centralized entity or CEO or business that owns your account. It's on a distributed network underneath the platform, so outside of the platform. What that does is it allows us to guarantee free speech, because when you own your account, you own the community that's attached to that account, you own the followers list that's attached to that account, the economies, and then the content outside of the platforms. The platforms can't delete your content in your account anymore. And so this is the world that we're moving into, and really that's what the Speak Network works next to the Hive blockchain, and they both work in unison to provide an underlying protocol for that technology. And 3Speak, the video app, is the first app built on the Speak Network. And the whole point of this thing really is for free speech. We have to preserve free speech in order to preserve effectively what is a degrading Western civilization at the moment. So free speech is a foundation, and we have achieved that using 3Speak web app and the 3Speak desktop app that you can run locally on your computer.
Crypto, get into. I remember one time we were talking on, I believe, via Telegram, and you were explaining the differences between what people perceive as decentralized, say like video platforms or social networks, and what is truly decentralized. In other words, some people believe that certain platforms, and I won't name them, you may want to name them, but they believe that they're decentralized and they're full. They don't have a central point of origin when in fact they do have a central point of origin. But I think what we're hearing from Starkers is that you're dealing with a truly decentralized ecosystem. So, Crypto, I mean, can you just let our viewers know exactly what are the differences between what is perceived to be decentralized and what is truly decentralized? Just because it's on the blockchain, just because it's a crypto-based app, it doesn't mean it's decentralized.
Yeah, and I don't think, and Starkers will know a bit more about this because I'm not technical, and I think he's just turned his video off because of the poor internet connection where he is. But some of the YouTube's not decentralized. YouTube, they have they own the content. It's on servers wherever those servers are, and it's the same with some of the alternative platforms, and I will name them, like Rumble, like BitChute. I think also Brighteon and brand YouTube. Those are centralized, as far as I know. Definitely Rumble and BitChute, they're not decentralized. you actually can't have video storage on the blockchain because it's way too, there's just too much, I don't know what the technical word is. It requires too much computing power. The blockchain's not fast enough. There isn't enough storage capacity, but there are decentralized storage protocols. And here I'm really at the edge of my knowledge in a way, right? Which there's IPFS.
IPFS, yeah.
And I think Etho Protocol, they've been on your channel. They use that, although it's not a video platform. BitTube.video uses peer protocol, which is a decentralized protocol. I'm not sure how it works. So the fully decentralized one is, I imagine, they break up the information and they distribute it, and there's no point of capture, there's no central point of weakness like there is with BitChute, Rumble, or YouTube.
The most difficult thing in all of this is actually achieving decentralization. Decentralization is incredibly achieved. It's almost a freak of nature event. It's organic, and you can set the conditions in which you have to operate by in order to achieve decentralization. But whether that happens or not is a question that you have to monitor the blockchain for and keep a track as to whether the chain's being centralized or not. If you've got the right governance capabilities in place beforehand, you can move away from a decentralized system as you see it's forming. Most chains out there, 95% of chains out there, are not decentralized and will not be decentralized, and they are very much centralized. Generally, the signs as to whether a chain is decentralized or not, it's centralized venture capital. This is because venture capitalists will be looking to dump on the communities as they buy into the token. Venture capitalists don't necessarily align with the values of the chain, and they're looking generally, first and foremost, to make a profit. Often, if you get founders that gave themselves tokens, that is also centralized and is regulatable by the SEC. So all of these chains, they've all got founder stakes. If they become popular, mainstream, and they start running free speech systems on those chains where people start talking freely, they will get regulated, and they will either be arrested, there will be a deal cut in the background, or something along those lines. Another sign of decentralization is if a few accounts have got the majority of the token in their accounts, and you can see those on open, transparent blockchains. So what?
Starkers, I just want to come in because I think you made a really, really important point, and I never considered it. So when you do have a decentralized project or application, it is difficult to capture and regulate. But it never occurred to me how difficult it is to create something that's decentralized, because it must have a centralized source, even if the centralized source is you and a team of devs or whatever who are building this. I think I've said this on your show before, Alex. Like if we think of ants' nests all over the world, apart from Antarctica, can't manage them or control them or regulate them. There's too many, too dispersed. The only way of doing it would require destroying the entire planet, right? It just ain't worth it. But then if there was no ants' nest, how would you get them decentralized? Because where it would spring from would be one source. And so I just completely, I thought that was a very, very important point that I'd certainly never considered, is the source of decentralization is centralized.
Yeah, can I comment on that?
Yeah, please.
Yeah, so yes, ultimately one team builds the protocols, and hopefully you can get that team dispersed across the world. Hopefully many of those members can be anonymous. I don't know many of the developers that we work with. For example, we try to work with anonymous developers. And the idea behind that is that the more anonymous the team is, the more decentralized the project can ultimately be. Centralized sources of failure. The project is set up from, generally at the moment, the way the world, from a GitHub account or a GitLab account, and the code is open source. So everything that we do, we pay for, and we release it open source over there. So that if we disappeared tomorrow, the source is still there. the code is still there. The way it decentralizes is people run a copy of that code, effectively the node systems, and they run those nodes on either their local servers or their local computers, or they rent servers and run those nodes on. And that's what decentralizes the chain then. So if they're all running the same in terms of securing the ecosystem on multiple different nodes at the same time, then that's effectively a blockchain, and you have a distributed system. So there was a failure then. However, the problem that you have today is teams do this, but they give themselves 20 token, or they'll give themselves governance ownership over the token or over the ecosystem, so they can make the ultimate final decisions, which is all well and good if you're just doing something that the bankers. But if you're doing something that's effectively building economy next to the current economy that's oppressing people, and that new economy is giving people freedom and the ability to transact and speak without having to worry about where you're from, what your politics are, what skin color you are, all this type of stuff, then that alternative system poses a threat to the current system. And you need to know that the founding team isn't a weak link, in that they are working for free. They are being funded from decentralized methods that are not VCs. So those methods can't be corrupted or shut down, or they're self-funding and they're giving away the technology for free. And then they run the node systems in a distributed way so that everyone can start running the same node systems on day one. Compete for mining rewards with everyone else who's running mining systems. Even though the team put a shit ton of work in before to build the tech, people who didn't put a day's worth at all are going to be able to mine competitively with the founding team. And that's how you make sure it's decentralized. That's exactly what Satoshi did. He's basically the only one that managed to stick to those principles. And then there's other chains that didn't do it early on, but they've managed to work out. So, for example, Hive had a big war with Justin Sun from Tron blockchain, where he purchased Steemit.com's founding, which gave him about 30-40% control over the ecosystem, and started centralizing it. So the Hive blockchain was then formed by a fork and basically zeroed his accounts on the new chain, and the whole left the old chain, which was Steem, and moved across to Hive, left with an empty bag of a chain that no one really uses, with all of his money on there. But how is he going to sell out of that now? It's basically worthless. And then at the same time, the money that was his on Hive was zeroed and put into a distributed, where the community can now make proposals and receive funding from that fund to fund as voted on in a decentralized way by the community itself. And this is a proven method then for holding the rich to account. Abusive rich people can be held to account in these ecosystems. You then need a governance system, which we can go into a bit later maybe. But
yeah, I'd like to say something. So so Alex, first off, thank you so much for having us both on. Really, really appreciate it. I was looking forward to getting you guys together. And I know I've been on with Ether Protocol and also Sentinel discussing decentralization and censorship-resistant applications. And I just thought it might be useful because yours isn't a cryptocurrency channel like mine is, right? So, there are people who know a little bit about Bitcoin who know nothing, and there are people who know nothing about Bitcoin. There are people who know quite a bit about cryptocurrencies and Bitcoin. And just to bring them on board is that what we're talking about is what cryptocurrency makes available. So we had Bitcoin, then we had other coins and tokens and other blockchains being developed, that technology being built on. And we're now at the point where we can build decentralized applications like a decentralized VPN, like Sentinel, a decentralized file storage system, and now a decentralized vlogging platform. And actually more than that, because Speak Network is going to create decentralizing gaming. And actually, you're not going to create it. You've created the foundation. And then others can come along and say, it's like you've plowed the land, you've cleared the land, and then plowed the field, and then others can come along and start planting their blockchain seeds for their applications.
Well, the intent here with this is that, you plow the foundation, and then other apps who are all trying to build this Web3 in a fair, decentralized way as well instead of having to build the whole thing themselves, they will be able to come along and plug into the technology and implement it into their own platforms, much engineering work themselves. So it saves them cost and time. Tools like NFTs, gives them tools like community tokens, immutable communities that can't be deleted, immutable accounts that exist outside the platform that can't be deleted. These are all Web3 features that, if you have them on truly decentralized blockchains and protocols, you can really empower people and give them freedom online and make sure that they have their protection in terms of their social media accounts, and implement that into the platforms.
How would you define Web3? I mean, if you had to define Web3, what would it be?
I'll let Rich go first on that.
Okay, I'll have a go, and then
because everyone's talking about it. People talking about the metaverse and people talking about Web3 and all of these things.
I have a simple definition.
Yeah. Okay, well, let me go first, right? Let me have a go first. Okay, right. So Web 1, remember the days of the internet when it was have to take out the telephone modem and put in the modem from the back of the computer, and they go pa-dung, pa-dung, pa-dung. BBC web would take like 10 minutes to load very, very slowly down the screen, right? And it was fine because it was all I knew. Now, if the page is not up instantly, I'm annoyed, right? But in those days, it was okay. I would wait patiently. Perhaps I'd read a book. But the website was static. There was nothing I could do with it. It was like a digital poster. There was no interaction. And then that's Web 1. Web 2 allows me to go in a little bit deeper. And I can interact with it, but I don't own it. I don't own anything. Web 3 is interactive, and I'm the owner of it. I'm the primary agent that acts with it, that interacts with it. So, for example, with 3Speak.tv, with my channel that I've started up there, I upload the content as I do with YouTube and the other channels and stuff, but I own the content. I can take it down. Nobody else owns it. It's mine. So it's like the, I suppose, it's the decentralization of server capacity in this instance, where I can go in and out and interact and stuff. How was that, Starkers?
It makes sense, yeah. Starkers.
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, for me to say it in a really simple way, Web3 is where you own your account on a decentralized layer outside of the platforms. And everything that then comes with that is attached to your account, and you can take that wherever, and no one can take it off you as long as it's operating on a decentralized layer that's truly decentralized. Then it's yours, Now, you can now, if you consider Web 2, you are the bitch of Mark Zuckerberg, you are the bitch of Jack Dorsey and Twitter and the likes of that, right? You have to be very careful what you say there, what you do, how you conduct yourself. And if they don't like what you do and you get too big, then it's a problem for you. And so you have to be very mindful of that, especially if you're building a business on Web 2 or a social media platform on Web 2. Web 3, there's going to be very little the platforms can do about that. The platforms will become skins, and your account will capture all of that value inside of it via its tokenomics and systems that are provided through Web 3. And there's nothing that anyone can do to take that away from you. And so unless the whole community unites against you, unless you do something to piss off the whole community, then the community can effectively fork you away. But you really have to piss to get that to happen, which is good, because there's going to be certain factors of society that do piss everyone off, that various community members will want to restrict in some way. But at least it won't be a centralized decision like it is on Twitter and Facebook today. Yes,
that's very good what you said. And when you said about Web3, you can carry it around with you and then interact with the platform whenever you're ready. That's Bitcoin. That could also be used as a metaphor for Bitcoin. I carry the private key around with me. Nobody can, or in my hardware wallet, nobody can take it off me. And then it's up to me when I interact with the blockchain, and it's permissionless. I think that's the other thing. Web 3.0 is permissionless, and I own the data, which isn't necessarily the case with some of the other platforms.
It's a nice analogy with Bitcoin there, because Bitcoin really is the decentralization of the store of value and the right to transact. You have the right to send you money, and there is nothing anyone can do about it apart from shooting me. that can stop that, because Bitcoin is built on a decentralized layer. It's the same with Web3. Web3, I mean, you could say that Bitcoin is kind of the underlying foundational economy of Web3 maybe, but Web3 really is more oriented towards social media. And what Bitcoin did for the transfer of value, Web3 does for social media, effectively.
Right. I agree with that. I agree with that. Let's, Starkers, talk to me about 3Speak TV. I think this is a good example. This is like a practical example that people can really sink their teeth into. I mean, I'm on the page. I'll put a screenshot on it right now so people can take a look and see it. I mean, essentially, you are looking at a video vlog, social media platform. But what makes it different from the YouTube, the Rumbles, and these video platforms? I mean, Rumble is great, and I use Rumble, and Rumble says they're free speech. That's what they tell me. And I say, okay, there was a time when YouTube said they were, broadcast yourself. That was YouTube's motto, right? How that has changed. But, what is 3Speak TV? Why is it different?
3Speak is, it's really running on a decentralized protocol. So where Rumble is great because it's pro-free speech and everything, you really do have to trust them that they're going to continue to maintain your free speech. And I'm aware, but a few, I don't know if they got included in the SPAC that Trump's running or were invested in by it, but it allows them to get direct loans from the Fed. And that just alarm bells to me as controlled opposition. It's quite concerning that the centralized owners can move the ownership of this thing around. They can promise you different things, but you really are, again, relying on them to remain the same type of people, not get subverted and taken over. So while Rumble's a great, the foundations upon which it's built could do with integrate free. And this is where we will be able to help platforms to integrate Web3 on a decentralized layer so that their users truly own their accounts outside of the platform. So 3Speak is one of these systems where when you get an account with 3Speak, the account exists outside the platform, and you can take that account anywhere you like within the Hive ecosystem and play different computer games with the same account, use different social media apps, blogging platforms, video platforms, meming platforms, create different NFTs, you get an NFT platform. So all these things are being built upon the foundational account layer. And the thing that makes it, I mean, that sounds similar to like using Facebook to log into various different things. But the difference is that no one can take that account off you. So Facebook can still take the account off you and destroy your community. So if you spent 10 years building a community upon Facebook, they can still take it off you. If it's 1 million followers, I mean, I've heard of 10 million follower communities being deleted overnight, right? It's just years and years of blood and sweat and tears. So with this Web3 system that backs your followers, your community, one can take them off you. And then on top of that, there is a distribution model where you can receive monetization in the community as you have the community. They will upvote you and then distribute some of the new inflation of the crypto to your content. So you can monetize your crypto, all completely outside the system. And again, that crypto, the platform can't take it off you. No one can delete it. It's on the distributed layer and it's there. And then you can take that crypto from 3Speak to a platform that's operating in the ecosystem and use it there if you want to, So all of these things, the principles of Web3 are there, and they all are owned by the account, separate to the platform,
Me and Crypto, okay, we do videos, right? Crypto, we do videos, we upload them. I get the part about I can take my account and I can move it. I think the Facebook analogy was very good, the Facebook login analogy. I can take my account and I can move it to different apps, different websites, and no one can stop me. No one can take that away from me. But what about the actual content? Me and Cryptorich, we do videos. We have videos. These are real files, 10-minute videos, 20-minute videos, and we're uploading them somewhere. What if I want to, does that go with me as well? Or is that somewhere centralized? Does someone control the actual those actual files, those actual MOVs or MP4s, who has those?
Yeah. So when we started 3Speak, it was us that we wouldn't delete your content. As time's gone on and we're building out the Speak network underneath 3Speak, now all videos are stored on IPF storage protocol, and the Speak network will be an incentivization of the people running that infrastructure with new cryptocurrency. And so that's what's being built out at the moment. It's not just it's the content delivery networks. Content delivery just improves the quality of the video delivery to the viewer. And also the encoding of the video content. That also formats need to be encoded from the original master file. And all of those are infrastructure provided in a centralized way. Well, the Speak network is allowing, we're currently building a system so that anyone run those delivery systems, storage systems, and the encoding systems on their local devices or their personal servers, and provide those peer-to-peer to the rest of the community. And what that does is it basically is the infrastructure that every content platform needs. And the Speak network will incentivize those people for running those systems so that they can then have a sustainable in terms of providing that infrastructure to the rest of the network, so that it really is decentralized, and you rely on no single centralized entity to provide that infrastructure. And so 3Speak is midway through storage already. The storage is already on an IPFS. The ability for the community to run CDN, yes, and incentivize. And we're also working on encoder systems to allow people to encode locally instead of using our encoder. So we're in this kind of transition phase where we really are moving away. So, and the whole point of this is, if we get taken out or get turned off, then it doesn't matter, because the content's still online and outside of our servers. The infrastructure is still online by the communities outside of servers. So where does this go? The way it would look for someone like you, Alex, and also Cryptorich, as you both grow, you have that are on the base layer attached to your account. So those aren't controlled by us. And then your communities will be able to vote their own, basically, to store your content on. So there's going to be, so they'll have multiple copies of your content all over the internet via your community. And when they run out of space, then incentivize other people who are professional storage people, your content as well. And then content delivery, then goes for your community members will be able to provide this for you. And the importance of this, so this is kind of something that a lot of content creators are doing today, where they're creating their own sites, they've got their own software built into the website. They might have spent 20 grand to get it set up and everything, and they store it. It's quite expensive, but at least they're online, right? System wants the old system wants you hidden away, and they're going to put you down in the obviously you'll stop growing. That is the whole point. You silo people. Whereas when you do it on these distributed databases, so that the content is stored in a distributed way, it can access that content. It means that every ecosystem can pull that content to its and show it, which provides you with a network effect, because it's not just on your front end, which you can run and integrate this Web3 technology into, but it will also show on 3speak.tv, on peakd.com, it will show on Xsense.
Crypto, this is like, that's how I'm thinking about it. I'm just like, this is.
You have to.
That's the game changer, isn't it?
It is, and
that's the game.
I said this to you before we started recording, and I haven't said this to Starkers, but I'm sure he knows. He's been telling me, right? I've just looked on I have 16 followers on my 3Speak account. I started posting up there a couple of months ago. My subscribers.
How many followers?
16, 16,
okay.
Right?
16, 16.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then I stopped posting, so I don't have a lot of videos up there or anything. and then I started up again, and I've earned more money on with those handful of videos and the 16 followers on 3Speak.tv than I have on BitTube or on ODYSEE put together. And on BitTube, I've got over 1,000 subscribers, and on ODYSEE, I've got 2.4 subscribers. On YouTube, I have 25.4 thousand subscribers, but I'm being so brutally censored that sometimes I get more views on my ODYSEE videos than I do in my YouTube videos, even though my ODYSEE audience is like a tenth of the size because of the shadow ban on YouTube. But I'm finding that 3Speak.tv, I'm making more money, and there's no ads, and it comes from, I don't quite understand how the reward system works, but it works. And I get the Hive token, or it's a token, I think, not a coin. Yeah, it's a token, because it doesn't have its own blockchain. The Hive token is increasing in value as well. So I'm getting paid in Hive, which is just going up as well. It's all good. What you could do is make this your first video on 3Speak.tv.
Yeah. I think that's a good idea. I think I'm going to be putting a lot more videos on 3Speak.tv. But this is like a nightmare for like Google and Facebook and these guys.
Yeah, which is why I think they're working so quickly and desperately, with Bitcoin as well, and before the monetary collapse, to get the Great Reset in place. And it's like a race. Are they going to get the Great Reset in place, right, and kill off decentralization, or try to? Or are we going to have a monetary collapse and decentralization before the Great Reset gets embedded in our lives? Race to the finish.
Yeah, and when you listen to all of this stuff, we lost Starkers again. Hopefully he'll be back soon. But when you look at like what Meta did, what Facebook did by pivoting to Meta, you start to understand how Facebook has started to say, you know what, let's insert ourselves into this ecosystem and just take it over before it becomes this decentralization that Starkers was explaining. Before we get to that point, let's get into the party and let's spoil the party, and let's just take things over. I mean, you can start to see the motivation for why Facebook is getting into this.
And I don't think it will work, because what Facebook, Amazon, and Google have done is, somebody comes up with a new application like WhatsApp. WhatsApp was brilliant, absolutely brilliant, really, really brilliant. So what do? They buy it up. And then I've also heard that what the big tech companies do is they buy up competitors and then disappear them. How are you going to do that with a decentralized network? Now, you can do that, say, with Bitcoin up to a point. You keep buying more and more Bitcoin, like MicroStrategy with 172,000 Bitcoin they now have, right? But it gets so centralized. As you centralize it more and more, it drives the price up. And then there are diamond hands that ain't going to let go anyway. But then if it becomes too centralized, like what's happened with Justin Sun of Tron, his purchase of Steemit, it became way too centralized. The decentralized community said, okay, we'll move over there. Bye. And then he's left with nothing.
Starkers, what was we were just talking about like big tech and why they're getting involved in this. After listening to you, it's crystal clear why they're trying to get, why they're trying to crash this party. What are your thoughts on big tech and their efforts to muscle in on all this stuff?
RSS system where you can copy the feed from your 3Speak account. They automatically transfer to podcasts, and you can go and paste that into your Apple phone, into your Apple podcast player, and you can listen to all. I don't think they're going to be able to stop that from happening, which is fantastic. And anyway, so we addressed this issue the other day in regards to the comments that the likes of Dorsey and Musk are making. It's very peculiar. We think there's something far more going on in the background. These people aren't stupid. We also know that they're very with Hive and the Speak Network and 3Speak, because we spoke to them last January. They run Sky, which is Jack Dorsey's open apparently protocol for Twitter on the internet, which they're developing. Spoke to us about how Hive and DPoS worked, and then kind of we lost touch. And then since then, we've had a lot of shadow banning on Twitter. And then recently, Jack Dorsey, I mean, Jack, I don't know I don't know whether he fully understands what he's talking about. These people like Musk and Jack Dorsey, I forget that they are children in this game. They really are. They might be intelligent people, but they are very, very unexperienced. I really say they were the best people to follow and listen to. Don't get me wrong. You want to talk to me about battery technology and rockets? Elon Musk, your man, right? You want to talk to me about censorship on a centralized short form blogging platform? Jack Dorsey is your man. But don't talk to me about Web3, guys. You got no. You're talking. It's great to see them try to take down the Web3 name before it even started. When you realise that the account system can now be taken away from the platforms and run on a distributed layer, as long as it doesn't have any company or CEO or venture capital that's controlling it, have a truly decentralized layer and no one can take those accounts off people. That is a new paradigm. It changes everything. Because now you can run communities, you can run these people that are from the Web 2 world cannot understand this.
So it's not because you missed something out, right? Which is that it's not confined to any particular jurisdiction either. That's the other thing. And then what we have is globalized decentralization versus what, in the World Health Organization and the WEF one, which is globalized centralization. Now you have globalized decentralization. People are free all over the world.
It's a fantastic point. Globalized decentralization.
I wonder what the motive is for Jack Dorsey and Elon Musk to be going after Web3. And Web3 is, in your world I call it Web 2.5. It's not Web 3 because it's all built with this centralized mindset. The fact is anymore, we print our own money. The communities print their own money. It's over. It's done, right? Forget about it. Join the tech. It's here. You can't shut it down. These communities are printing self-funding, right? They have strict policies that are far more credible than the...
Here's the thing about the printing their own money. It's not inflationary. It's deflationary. That's the crazy thing about it. Because I was telling you, Alex, before we started recording, is, I'm involved with a particular cryptocurrency. It's not connected to 3Speak, but in the last bull run in 2017, the vogue was doing ICOs. You would do ICOs and raise funds, and people would buy your ETH, and then some of those projects would run off with the money straight away. Some of them would fail. Some of them are still struggling. Some of them have done okay. Some of them have thrived, right? But people had to hand over their fiat to buy some ETH to send to somewhere else, to a centralized entity. This is the Cosmos ecosystem. How they're growing their communities is by giving away their tokens. They're just airdropping their tokens. And then I'm like, I get this free crypto. Well, let me see what this does. And then, oh my God, this free crypto is now worth $5 or $9. All I did was I just got it for free and I'm now holding it and transacting it. But there's a demand for it. So I think that leads on to, I think what Starker said is that we're making our own money. The paradox is that it's deflationary, not inflationary, because the value of it isn't going down. And I think that's also driven by people want yield. Tom Luongo says that the Wall Street wants yield and wants to get into crypto. Well, so do little people like me. I want yield. I don't want my 1% from a savings account in England or something, right? No,
if they even give you that.
If they even give you right? Even then it's still negative against inflation, right? But people want yield, so people will come in for that.
Yeah. It's such an existential threat to the Dorseys and the Zuckbots and all of these guys. This whole thing is strikes at the core of their very existence, and that is why they're going to do everything in their power to muddy the waters. There's no doubt about it. And I think that's the whole purpose of Meta.
Yeah, I mean, they are like Rockefeller and Rothschilds were in their days. I mean, one of the things, I think I may have mentioned this to you, Alex, but my kids never went to school. My kids are home educated. My son's 17, my daughter's 14. And when I was looking into this, one of the things that Carnegie and Henry T. Ford and other industrialists at the time was they lobbied the US government to set up schools, and partly motivated, many, many reasons, but one of them was they wanted to kill off competition. Because they don't want people growing up to have independent, creative minds. So let's train them to be obedient and compliant so they can work in our factories, earning widgets, which they can then use to buy those widgets that we pay them in. So I imagine it's the same for Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos and all the others. They want to kill off the competition because that threatens their power and their control.
Starkers, are we moving away from the Silicon? Yeah, I agree. Are we moving away from the Silicon Valley model? In other words, you can be anywhere and do this stuff.
The control system that they have in place and that they're tightening around people now is incredibly oppressive. People have to comply. They're going to be forced to more and more and wonderful measures, access to the system and trade. If people will start to see very quickly that these entities have been subverted and they are no longer representing the interests of their client base. And this is the nature of centralization ultimately. And so this Web3 system, talking about Twitter and Reddit and things like this, they're going to struggle to provide tokenization systems because they all produce from central. Whereas when you have a truly distributed foundation, there is no centralized entity that can be pursued in the courts.
All right. Let's Stackers. Let's wrap this up. What are your final words? How do people get involved in 3Speak.tv? Do they need anything to get involved in what you're doing, or just jump right into it? What would you tell people that are watching this video? How can they plug in?
Yeah, no, it's free to sign up. Crypto projects wanting to invest. No, there's no investment required. You just sign up, and you start creating content. And I mean, if you get involved with the community, you help the community, maybe provide some value to the community in some way, then of course more people will notice you and more people will appreciate what you're doing. If you bring users in, or if you get people to comment on your blogs there and your content, then people will appreciate that more. So you're more likely to monetize that way. But in terms of just, to me,
whether you use our system or not, get onto Web3 and not Web 2.5, Web3, right? And the reason for that is because it's like they're going to become more restrictive in Web 2 anyway. Web 2 being the current Twitter, the Facebook. You'll have to comply with certain things in order to get their approval to be able to use their platforms, and that's going to become more and more restrictive.
Yeah, they're doing that with BitChute already. Like sometimes if I've got VPN set to the UK and I click on a link, it'll say, "Oh, this video has been can't remember, like in my jurisdiction because it violates local legislation, like hate laws, hate speech or something." And then I change my VPN to another jurisdiction, the US or Germany, and then I go in, and I mean, there was one time there was a doctor giving a speech at a demonstration in Australia. There's no hate speech.
Yeah. I mean, so here's the thing that's interesting here is, so 3Speak, the platform, the centralized web platform, will have to comply with GDPR rules and take down notices and things like this, right? Because ultimately we have a responsibility to follow the laws in each country. However, I mean, there's so many things to this here that it's so crazy what's going to happen. So essentially, when you give the tools open source for free to the community, to the people such as yourselves, content creators such as yourselves, who will allow their communities to start running that infrastructure, if those community members happen to be anonymous or they happen to be in different countries, there's very little you can do to stop that unless the wider community itself says enough. And so, if you get dodgy content like pedophilia or terrorist organizations operating, then the wider community can self-regulate and make the decision. But to like remove one video because it's breaking hate speech laws in one country is going to be virtually impossible in the future, because it will be run by your communities directly. It will be self-hosted by you and your community members. And it will have nothing to do with 3Speak the platform. 3Speak the platform may have to stop the video from showing on its front end, but you guys are all going to be able to run your own open source front ends very, very easily that just tie all this technology in anyway and are part of the network. So it's going to be so difficult in the future. And just to make another point here, when we created Hive from the Tron Steam war, which I call the first blockchain war, and I believe there'll probably be a movie made about that because it was insane what happened. But basically, one of the things that it demonstrated, as well as being able to hold abusive rich people to account, or at least allowing the community to hold abusive rich people to account, it also demonstrated that you could move across to a brand name, and then the energy of your community would decide whether that brand name is successful or not. And what do I mean by that, right? So there's another company called Hive Blockchain Technologies, and they are listed on the Canadian Stock Exchange. And they are a mining company, so they're involved in blockchain. There is a kind of element of brand protection that they need to carry out because they existed before Hive, the community, did. So when you're doing brand protection law, you have to aggressively pursue your brand. So if someone else starts using your brand or taking your brand, they had to sue someone. They published a cease and desist notice and said, stop using the Hive brand. It's ours. We're also in the blockchain technology world, which if there is a centralized entity operating the Hive blockchain is fair enough. So on 95% of these other blockchains, they would cease and desist and stop using that brand. But because there isn't a company behind Hive, the blockchain, because there isn't an entity or a majority stakeholder, there was no one to sue. There's no one to sue. So they tried to sue and they can't sue anyone. And this is the other effect of Web3. If Web3 is truly decentralized, you'll be able to effectively, the brands will have to adopt it quickly, because if they don't, people are going to start running entities online that effectively subvert their brands. And there'll be no one to sue because these accounts will be run by communities. And so the points, the overarching point that I'm making here is join Web3 as soon as you can, because your brand, your ownership of your digital footprint is going to be yours over there. It's not yours on Web2. So I recommend using Web2, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube as traffic funnels to funnel traffic onto your Web3 properties, where you actually own the monetization, you own the content, you own the accounts, the communities, the ecosystems there. You are part of the ownership. And so I don't understand why this hasn't kind of taken off big time yet. I'm convinced it will over the coming years as Web2 becomes more and more oppressive. And this is one of it comes back to what we were saying about Elon Musk and Jack Dorsey. I feel a bit like this is one of the reasons they're trying to tarnish the name of Web3 already, because they've got their own solutions lined up in some way, shape or form, no doubt. And they want to bring out their Web3 solutions and say everything else isn't Web3. When in reality, no one will own Web3. There is no owner. There is no centralized entity. And the earlier you guys can get operating on these genuine Web3 no ownership platforms, where your communities run your infrastructure for you, basically, then the more protected your content is, the more you can monetize outside the system that no one can touch. And then the more you are part of the solution, because you're taking your energy out of this old system and putting it into this new system, which there is no centralized overarching owner of that can decide whether you're going to post tomorrow or not. So this is where I hope we can end up taking this. It's really one of the solutions to this new crazy world we find ourselves in.
Amen to that. On that note, I think that's a good note to end this video, guys. Well said, Starkers. Cryptorich, thank you very much. I'll put all the information to 3Speak, SPK Network, Starkers. All of it will be in the description box down below. And of course, Cryptorich, all the information, as well as the wallet, that wallet address as well. I'll put everything down below as well for people to access that information. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Till next time, take care.
Thank you, Alex. Thank you, Starkers. All the best.